Is oral sex and no sex okay in the marriage? Should Christians involve in those activities? And what is your conscience tells you? Is oral sex and no sex okay in the marriage? Those are questions many couples been asking, and we have been receiving a lot of mails regarding the topic, and today we want to sort of discussing. So I'll be talking anal sex and oral sex. So we're gonna discuss number one, we're gonna talk about oral sex. Should Christians be involved in those activities? Should have oral sex in their marriage? I think before you involve yourself in those activities, there are a few questions you need to ask yourself. Is your partner or your spouse okay with it? Is yourself, being the man, okay with it? Is your conscience clear? Are you really comfortable with it? Is your wife comfortable with it? Because if both of you are not comfortable with it, do not do it. Otherwise, you remain with a guilty in your mind. Therefore, it's important to find out from your partner. Ask your spouse if she's happy with oral sex. And if she says she's happy with it, and there is no any guilt in the mind, and then go ahead with it. So those are questions which couples need to ask themselves. Is oral sex a sin outside of marriage or before marriage? Is oral sex sin within the marriage? So those are a question which you need to ask yourself. Is it oral sex a sin before marriage, which means before you get married, is it a sin? Is oral sex a sin within the marriage? Many young people have been asking a lot of questions, saying no, oral sex is not a sex. I'm here to tell you that oral sex is a sex. Though there are many reasons say no, because I can give pregnancy, no, there's no pregnancies involved, it's safe. But oral sex is not safe. You can pick up disease. There's a lot of disease such as gonorrhea, a lot of bacteria. Is it really okay in marriage? And what does the Bible say about oral sex? So those are questions we need to ask ourselves. Okay, let's go in the scriptures. In the book of Hebrews chapter 13 verse 4, what does the Bible says? Marriage is honorable among all, and the bed undefiled, but the fornicator and adulterer God will judge. The Bible recommends us to honor our marriage. Even the bed where we sleep, where the activities take place, it needs to remain undefiled, which means clean. Because God will judge the fornicator and adultery. What is fornication? Maybe you may ask yourself that I've got married, I've got my wife, I've got my husband, there's no fornication. If you involve pornography within your marriage, it's a fornication. It's a strange things. It's a third person you've been involved. You've been invited into your sexual life, and such an activity like that is going to pollute your sexual life and destroy your marriage. Some people say treason. Treason is not good. You cannot, say no. Let's invite the third person because husband and wife we all agree. Let's invite another lady come in or another man come in. Those things is a fornication. God does not permit it for married couple, because a married couple is sacred. It's sanctified. It's honorable by God Himself. Sex toys are not good, because the more you involve into sex toys, you become addicted You become addicted into sex toys. Therefore, you don't feel satisfaction to your husband, to your wife. You want to satisfy by yourself by using whatever mechanism to try to satisfy yourself. So it strengthens stranger things you bring into your marriage. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 3, what the Bible says. But fornicator and adultery and covetous, let it not even be named among of you, as it is fitting for a saint. You are a saint. Your marriage, the vow you have made before God, it's been sanctified, purified by God. It's sealed by God. So anything strange you bring ungodly within your marriage is going to pollute that covenant which God has given you as a husband and wife. And again, what the Bible says in the book of Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 4, it says, the wife does not have authority over her body, but lay into her husband. In the same way, the husband does not have an authority over his own body, but lay it to his wife. What the Bible says, marriage couples, both of you have no authority over your body. Therefore, you cannot force things to your partner. You cannot force oral sex to your partner without a consent or without his consent, which means you need to seek for agreement. You need to talk about it. You need to communicate. Because these things bring a lot of confusion in many marriages. If there's a lack of communications, it's confusion. It's the beginning of confusions. Philippians chapter 2, verse 4, what says, do not seek your own interest, but each of you to the interest of others. So which means do not just seek your own interest. Because you want oral sex, you want to force it to your partner without a consent. Remember, mutual consent is very much important, in the marriage. Anything you want to involve into your relationship, talk to your husband, talk to your wife. If your wife is comfortable with it, is happy with it, and then you can go ahead. If your wife, she's not comfortable with it, do not do it. I know that you're waiting for me to talk about anal sex. Yes, that's where we are going right now. So, when we look to anal sex, there are questions which we need to ask ourselves. The act itself, is it natural? The act itself, is it healthy? So those are a number of questions we need to ask ourselves. As for me, when I look to the anal sex, it seems not to be natural. It's not natural because that is not the way which God give to husband and wife, the way they should enjoy sex. Maybe you may say, no, it's within marriage. Yes, it is within marriage. But what the Bible says, let's read in the book of Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22. It says, do not have sex relations with a man as one does with a woman. That is abomination. Yes, maybe you may say, no, here the Bible just talk about having sex with man to man, but me, I'm married man, I can have anal sex with my wife. So, though the Bible does not talk about that, so you to have sex with your wife through anal sex, so consider the consequence of involve yourself into anal sex. And when you look to that area, there's a lot of bacteria going on there. How can you go in there at the same time you come to your wife? You are not transferring bacteria? What the consequence of that when we look to the health terms? There are cancers, there are disease, there are a lot of infections, and the nature itself is not natural. So those are questions which we need to ask ourselves. If you like this video, please subscribe, leave the comment down below, and be the part of the light dreamily. And